Hey Carrot fam, thanks for joining us this afternoon. We have a special Carrot community Ask Me Anything combined with our group coaching calls. Super excited to have John and Carlos of InvestorFuse, and they're going to cover why a CRM is essential to your real estate business. So John, can I have you introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. I'm John Whitfield, the CEO of InvestorFuse and co-founder. So myself and another partner started the company 6 years ago. Carlos was one of our first hires, so he's been here just about as long. But my background's in technology and small business consulting, helping businesses kind of find solutions with technology. So building software just kind of fell into my lap, and as did the real estate investing industry. Happened to be the ones that were coming to me and saying, "Hey, we have a problem to solve it," and so building the software was the way to solve it. So here we are today, many years and customers under our belts, all around just lead management and lead follow-up. So super excited to be here to kind of share some best practices and answer some common questions as well as any live questions that people have.
Awesome, thanks. Carlos, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Beth, I would love to. An honor being on the Carrot platform. Appreciate you getting everything set up here and working to get this set up. Excited for the coaching call next week, but my name is Carlos Zamora. Like John said, have been with InvestorFuse pretty much since the beginning. I was wholesaling in Baltimore full-time before that with the other co-founder, Dan Schwartz. Enjoyed it thoroughly. We had a successful business. We had Carrot as well. They asked me to come on and help companies essentially use CRM and help with best practice follow-up with companies across the country. Got way more energy from that and have been doing that ever since and loving it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I want to shout out to Tom in Philly. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for saying hi in the comments. Everyone else, if you could say who you are and where you're from, that would be awesome. I'm going to let you guys take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth. Hey, Tom. Hey, everybody. Awesome. So quick slide just to go through kind of our intention for the AMA today. And here is John and myself for the Ask Me Anything. And we're going to be talking about why a CRM is essential to your real estate business. The John and Carlos of InvestorFuse. And kind of just went through a quick bio there. John, amazing background. And then I was doing wholesaling and then got into SaaS, or working with CRM for real estate investors. And here's what we're going to cover primarily when we pull up a screen share of InvestorFuse and kind of talk through this. Please bring your questions. Beth, I want to make sure I can actually see those. I'm not sure where those would be coming in to John and I, but here's some quick bullet point items of what we're going to cover when we screen share InvestorFuse, talk CRM, lead management, all that stuff. So one main benefit is that it's going to help keep you organized. Capture leads from all your marketing channels, including Carrot, of course, and it's going to assign those leads to the correct person in your organization. You can do some really cool stuff inside of InvestorFuse. Maybe even, if you have questions around one you're currently using, we'd be happy to help there as well. In addition to that, action and follow-up management for all your leads. You can understand what needs to get done with which lead, essentially telling sellers, hey, I'm going to follow up with you X date, actually fulfilling that. Understanding where your leads are at in the sales process, who's been contacted, who's uncontacted, who have you marked as qualified, who's got an offer, who's in the follow-up sequence, can see all that stuff nice and easily and organized. And then it's going to save you time. The Carrot team talks about time fairly often and how valuable that is. And that's one of our main goals or purposes for you guys, is to save you guys as much time through software and other things there. Awesome. Automated responses. I mentioned this on the call last week. The automatic responses to sellers when they respond to your marketing. Again, perfect example, having a Carrot site. you can have a custom text message go out from InvestorFuse that can include cool custom fields like their first name, their zip code, their city, things like that. Especially if it's late at night, maybe your team is out of office, 11 o'clock at night, someone's in a distressed situation, searches how to sell my house, Chicago. You can have a text that goes out to help them out and get that speed to lead a few seconds. And then automated follow-ups, more commonly known as drip campaign. We call them sequences. We're going to dive into that and show you what that looks like. We have some really, really cool ones. You can customize the minute each message gets sent out, a bunch of different channels, text, email, ringless voicemail, soon to be postcards, which we're super, super excited about, and then internal tasks to your team when you want to schedule a manual follow-up call, let's say every 30 days for best practices. Oh, I think we may see a sneak preview of what the postcard looks like.
Sample postcards been being mailed to my house.
Awesome.
Sweet. I think it's important for people to let's paint a picture before we dive into the software and how the software helps that. But I think a lot of people, as they get into real estate investing, it's easy to start small with lead management because you're only getting a handful of leads. It's easy to either remember them, to write them down on a piece of paper, or even use like a basic spreadsheet. And that's where we find most people start to their lead management kind of process. But what happens is the more and more leads that you get, the more that you have to remember. And I can't remember the exact stat, but it's something like somewhere between 75 to 100 is like the max amount that your brain can remember. And I know my brain, is, with everything I have going on with my family, my animals, like everything in life. I don't watch sports, but if I watch sports, that would be another thing in my head that I have to keep track of. You can't remember everything. And so a CRM really starts to come into play when you're generating leads, enough leads that you start to not remember who that person is and where they are in the process of potentially signing, going under contract with you and your business. So you definitely want to make sure that you're kind of aware of that pain point. We don't really recommend people jump to a CRM immediately until they start having some lead flow, unless you're like, hey, I've got this big campaign coming up, like I know what I'm doing, I've got direct mail going out on Thursday, and I'm sending it to 20,000 houses, and I expect a bunch of calls, and I need to be prepared for that. But that's the main pain point that people are trying to solve. Now, there's definitely a lot of extra benefits, but the system in itself, like in its basic format, is making sure that you, when you jump on that phone with that seller, can speak intelligently to the problem that they've spoken to you about. Because you got to remember, you're speaking to tens, hundreds of potential sellers, but they maybe are only speaking to you, which would be ideal, or if they are speaking to other wholesalers, it's just a handful. And so you need to be representing yourself intelligently and remembering their situation and their problem and how you could potentially solve that.
Love it. Very well said. Anything we want to hit on before kind of talking, and we can kind of tag team just going through the system from a lead coming in from Carrot, talking about transactions. Anything you want to hit on before that? I don't see any comments. I definitely met with some Carrot members individually today and yesterday, and I told them they should join this AMA. If you're one of those people, please chime in, let me know that you're on, and would love to see some questions coming in. Cool. Well, let's get started here. And you should see a familiar, your favorite lead generation marketing hub right at the top here, Carrot. So when I'm talking about InvestorFuse to an investor, a real estate professional, I like to start here in the campaign section. So these are marketing campaigns, and this is pretty much anyone or any way that you're capturing leads and doing marketing for your real estate business. So in this demo space, you can see a bunch of popular tools here. Carrot at the top, Smarter Contacts, a really popular texting platform, call tools. For anybody that wants our list of integrations, the most used tools by our customers for all different types of marketing, feel free to reach out and we can send that. But this is essentially what you're doing here, and the first of two leverage points that I talk about InvestorFuse. The first one is capturing your leads from all your marketing tools. So one benefit of having a CRM, especially InvestorFuse, not even to do that hard of a plug for us specifically, is in general, real estate professionals, we want you guys working on sales, marketing, things of that nature. So our team is going to set up everything for you. Carrot, cold calling tools, phone systems like smartphone call rail. We don't want you using Zapier, Globiflow, anything like that. We're going to connect everything for you. And then the first thing I want to touch on, I may kick some questions off to John here, are KPIs. A lot of you guys, if you guys follow CarrotCast, a lot of the top podcasts, people talk about KPIs, an acronym, Key Performance Indicator, which for me is really like a pulse of your business and seeing just how you're performing. So all these are pretty popular sales and marketing KPIs that automatically generate inside of your InvestorFuse account just by using the system. You do enter in cost, audience size of that campaign, but everything else is going to automatically track just by you and your team using the system, which is pretty cool. This is going to give you an understanding of how much it costs to generate a lead that comes in from your Carrot site versus how much it takes to generate a lead from your cold calling tool and any other marketing channel that you do. So we have all these here, and we are focused on follow-up touches. So follow up, and we also have total amount of touches here. Seller lead opportunities, cost per lead or cost per opportunity that I mentioned, offers, contracts, everything right here. While we're on the subject of KPIs, something that I love that's relatively new is an understanding of more so your talk time. This is a little messed up in this demo space here, but you can understand how many actions you've completed, your speed to lead. So again, that's kind of that first leverage point of the first text going out, calling a Carrot lead as soon as they come in, understanding how much time it takes you to talk to a lead when it first comes in. Some other metrics as far as like talk time, how many calls you're making, calls over 1 minute, over 5 minutes, offers that you've made. So essentially some metrics that are just going to help you understand how well you and your team are performing and if you're doing revenue generating activities to actually make revenue in your business. In addition to cap off or kind of finalize the first of two leverage points here, we have capturing your marketing from all your tools, KPIs. You can actually go into each specific marketing campaign. We'll go into Carrot, and you can choose who you want responsible for these leads when they come in from your Carrot site. And you can do some cool things here. I'm kind of talking broad to all team sizes, but you do unlock some pretty cool features as you move up our pricing tier with Pro and Premium. One of those is the ability to utilize groups, and this is something that's really cool that we've got a lot of good feedback on. Let's say a Carrot lead comes in, depending on your team size, you can have this lead be assigned to one individual person, you can have it round robin to a group of people, or you can have it go to what's called an open group where multiple people can get notified, and then you could make it just first come, first serve. Whoever's the first one to call them can take ownership of that lead. And you can do that unique for each marketing campaign. It's not even like, and this is one benefit of a previous version we had on top of Podio, where every single marketing campaign that you had, all the leads had to go to just one person specifically. Here, you can not only route it to more than just one person and do round robin and open groups, but you can customize that for each marketing campaign that you have. So we have assignment there. And then one thing that is a bonus that I've already alluded to is the automated seller response. So again, speed to lead, talked about this on the call last week. Here's where you can have an email auto response set up on your Carrot site. Hopefully all you guys have that set up. And then you can have an automated text from InvestorFuse. So the seller, when they look at their phone, and some of those are mobile submissions, I'm sure you guys know metrics on, they're going to get a text and email right from you, whichever way they choose to respond. All that's going to be tracked inside of InvestorFuse. They're responded to, and the person that is responsible for that lead can get clearly notified. So that's kind of a recap of the first of two main leverage points and really where our system starts. Anything that you want to touch on there, John?
Yeah, I think the important thing to kind of take home about like all of these features, and again, like we're showing this as it is InvestorFuse, but even starting off like writing this down or using a Google Sheet spreadsheet as you kind of start getting some of your first leads in, is not every lead is the same. Okay, So a lead generated through a Carrot website organically or via PPC is not the same lead that comes from a cold caller, right? Cold caller is somebody that you found some data points on, that they might have some pain. You were able to connect with them and they agree that they have some pain and might be interested in furthering that conversation from that. Somebody coming in organically or from PPC has a pain point and are actively searching to attempt to solve that pain point, right? So the messaging and the way that you handle those leads can be different. The organic and PPC leads need to have a bit like a more of a priority to your workload than does the cold call lead, because they are searching, and guaranteed they're searching not just for you but for other people as well, and reaching out to them. So you want to be reaching them first. You want that automated response to go out to them that speaks to the fact that they found you online, right? And two, like as well as like if you're in a bigger team, you want your assignments to be going towards the best people possible to jump on that lead quickly and effectively. Whereas the cold call leads can be like maybe a second priority. Maybe you're having your own cold calling team or an outsourced cold calling team, and they're sending leads into you for callbacks. Maybe those are a second priority. You want to make sure that your carrot PPC or organic leads are going first. And then at the same time, the KPIs and the costs and the associated them are very different as well, right? So a PPC lead versus an organic lead are two totally different costs. A PPC lead can be anywhere from, I don't know, $50 to $300 worth per lead, where organic, it's just your time to work on your SEO and your carrot subscription. And that's the nice advantage of being able to come into each of these campaigns and add an individual cost, is you can then start to see, okay, what is my cost per lead? What's my cost per deal? And you can start to make decisions about where you spend your marketing money. So if you can see that you're converting more people via PPC and you're getting a higher average deal profit, then that might be the avenue that you start to reinvest in, more than increasing your cold callers, just for example. And if you aren't tracking these things, then you would never know that. And you'd never be able to make the best decisions of like, I have a goal that I want to hit monetarily in my business. How do I get to that goal? You need to be able to use this data to understand that.
Love it. Very well said. Very good points. Anything from the audience, guys? Very cool. So InvestorFuse, we would say we're an action-based system. How I see that is to make it as simple as possible for nothing to fall through the cracks, and just like full clarity on what you're responsible for doing and making sure you're completing your follow-ups in a timely fashion when you're scheduling to do so, is essentially one lead comes in. We'll stick with carrot. Let's say a carrot lead comes in. There's one action that's assigned to it. You complete that action, schedule a future one before you move on to the next lead, working on the next lead, so that there's full clarity and nothing falls through the cracks. For us, based on how you route these leads, so we'll stay with the same example, carrot, we have those going to me. Those would show up in my action section. So this is essentially like a digital to-do list of what you're responsible for doing. We made it super easy. Hopefully you guys enjoy the interface here. We made it super easy to understand essentially what I'm responsible for doing with my leads. I can see what's overdue, what's due today, what's scheduled out in the future. This is looking pretty good. Also pretty good, if you guys are kind of sneaking ahead here, I have a call new lead for a new carrot lead that came in. I also have one for, it looks like a smartphone campaign. So maybe this is somebody calling a tracking number. One thing that's cool for those of you guys with a team is really good clarity around understanding, like, what does my entire company have to do as a whole, not just me. Like, I'm on top of my stuff. What else does my company have to do? So you can also go to team actions to see your entire company as a whole, and then filter to individual users to see what everybody has. So I can see my entire team is caught up with everything. We have a bunch of tasks to do, or actions due today, some new leads that came in, some follow-ups, and even me as a glance, I can kind of get an idea of what's going on with an individual lead. Like, even as I scroll down towards the bottom here, this lead that came in from a smartphone tracking number, I can see the last touch was 21 days ago on the 18th of October. We've touched them a total of 3 times, and it looks like we haven't touched them since that lead initially came in. So that's something that I would probably want to make sure my team is on top of, even though everything is caught up and there's stuff due today. Going to individual users, maybe I want to check in on, let's say, Mike on my team. I can go to Mike and I can see, okay, he's caught up with everything and he is a new lead. We're unsure of the campaign. So this may have came in. We may want to do some diagnosis and see what exactly is going on with this lead. But the important thing, and kind of like where someone would be spending most of their day in InvestorFuse and probably most CRMs, is my actions and then looking at like what leads I'm responsible for. So I'm going to come back to actions, but I do want to show opportunities as well. It's going to be a very similar layout. So part of my day as well, or really in any CRM, but in InvestorFuse specifically, it's kind of the same view. And you can do some cool things here as far as organizing your leads that I'm going to come back to. But I would probably want to take a look at, in addition to my actions, my leads every day, and maybe even like my hot leads. So I might go to motivation, and I might want to look at my warm and hot leads and just have an idea of every single thing that's going on here. Just kind of glance through, see if anything sticks out. And then maybe you just want to look at those for a particular marketing campaign. Just showing a little of the organizational aspect of having a CRM, all your leads, properly updated. So I can look at all my warm and hot leads that are just from Carrot, and I could even do this, let's say, from a certain time frame if I wanted to, clicking down to the bottom. Maybe I just wanted to see this quarter, what leads have come in this quarter to November, this last couple months. So nothing here in this demo space. That could be a cause for concern for any marketing channel if I don't have any leads the last month and a half that have just came in. So wanted to show that quickly. Let's pop over to actions and let's take a look at this lead here. So these Carrot leads are coming to me. Let's say I'm doing lead intake, either as a lead manager or acquisitions. This lead comes to me when I'm in the system. As far as working this lead, I can click on the action and it's going to take me to the action section of this lead, this Jonesboro, Georgia lead. Just to show you a little bit of the lay of the land, we're able to pull in a picture from Google Images, Google Maps. So I can kind of see, okay, it looks like a single family property. I can kind of see where that is. I'll zoom out a little bit and see where that is in correlation to a major town. So it looks like it's like directly south of Atlanta. Pretty cool. I may even take a look at the property data, which is a pretty surprising feature as far as how much our customers love it. We didn't realize how much our members would love this, but we're able to pull in data from a data provider individually as soon as we get an address. So Carrot leads, we're populating the address. If it's single family, guys, we're actually able to pull in some pretty awesome data. Beds, baths, square footage, current ownership. So maybe while I'm calling this lead, which I'll show you in a second, maybe as I'm calling this lead, I may just be verifying to see what came in from the Carrot site, see if it's a matching name. And then probably my favorite thing, not on this record here, but it'll actually show the deeds typically. So I can see like what the house was last sold for, mortgage information, everything like that. I would go ahead and click this button, the smartphone button. This is essentially going to dial this person, and it's going to pop up right here on the right-hand side, and I'm able to choose from a number of different outcomes to kind of automate and save time on taking notes, what happened, whether I got a hold of them, whether I left a voicemail, if they were interested, not interested. All that stuff is going to automatically populate in the activity and communication log, which I'll go through. But the system is super simple. That's some of the top feedback that we've been getting from companies that are loving the platform, is they're able to go in day one and really get an understanding of how to use it. Not complicated, don't have to go to CRM school or spend months trying to learn the system. I make a call, I pretty much choose one of these options, whether or not I got a hold of the seller. Our system will suggest something based on that. And the entire workflow is I can roll with that suggestion or parts of that suggestion. So the call attempt too, that sounds good. I want to give them a call. But maybe I want to call them later today instead of tomorrow. I could do that. I can program that in for after work today, 6:00 p.m. I could go ahead and hit that if I wanted to. The workflow though, I could change that action. So let's just go to assign next action here. I could change this. I can do a custom action, title it anything I want, type that out. I could do due diligence, assign this to somebody else on my team, maybe that's doing comping, maybe I run my own comps. You can schedule appointments, record verbal offers if you like to give offer ranges over the phone. You can send contracts. We can put in your custom contract, and with 2 integrations, DocuSign, DocuPilot, you could be sending electronic signatures right through the platform, which is really cool. And you can put them in a follow-up sequence, which I mentioned when we were going through like the outline of why a CRM is essential for your real estate business. So we're big on manually following up with leads, and we have the organization and some cool features like resurfacing that we talked about last week in place to do that. But I love sequences because this almost gives you the big business functionality of being a small, mom and pop real estate shop, like a lot of our customers are. You're able to do fully detailed sequences, drip campaigns. Beth will appreciate this. This is specifically for Chicago leads. You're able to put someone on a template of touches, like I mentioned. They're set in place. Once they're set, they're there, and you can just choose a scenario of when you want to follow up or do this automated follow-up. And it can be text, email, ringless voicemail. Currently, soon we're going to have postcards. John was teasing that a little earlier. And then internal tasks to your team, like a manual follow-up call every 30 days. So I hit complete action. That's going to put this seller on a string of touches, which I'll pop over here in a second to. And this leads me to my second leverage point of the system that I talk about, is the opportunity owner feature. What this feature does, it helps you organize your leads, like when I was showing you guys earlier what that looks like. But then also the really, really cool functionality is if any of my leads that I'm the opportunity owner of, if they try to call, text, email me, I get notified almost like it's a new lead from a marketing channel. So those 2 points in a lead's life cycle, when it first comes in from marketing, and then when a person tries to re-engage you in conversation, I'm just so on top of that and able to take action and get back in touch with that seller and provide a solution if they're looking for one. Obviously, you're going to tell people, some people may not be ready to sell or telling you to stop, calling them or whatever, but you're at least in that position to give yourself the highest % chance of success at calling them before other investors in your market might be able to, and they might not even have sequences, their leads automatically captured, optimizing their carrot site, doing SEO, thinking of the long-term game. So there's a lot of stuff using both of these tools that you can make some minor tweaks to and be consistent with and have a lot of big results for you. So that is the second leverage point, opportunity owner. I do want to pop over to sequences. I'll let John chime in with any thoughts he may potentially have around that. I'm pulling up a sequence that Beth would potentially use on leads in her market. And this is what a sequence looks like, guys. A couple things that I love on the latest version of InvestorFuse is the first option, which I call it kind of like staggering the first touch. So you guys saw, to initiate a sequence that's individual inside of a lead, inside the action workflow essentially. I can choose if when I start that sequence, the first touch goes out right away when I start it, or if I want it to be delayed. In my opinion, I might want to do a sequence that's delayed if it's more of like a cold and old follow-up scenario. So if it's like a retail lead, you're not an agent or anything like that, or maybe they just don't want to sell for like a year, I might put them on a sequence where the first thing that happens is an email 2 weeks later or 30 days later that just says, hey, thanks so much for working with us. I want to make sure I stay in touch. I'll be emailing you every few weeks or so. Feel free to call or email me if I can help before you want to sell. Something general like that. So you can choose whether or not that first touch goes right away. And then it's super easy to customize when you want some sequences to go out or some touches to go out in this particular sequence. So for this one that we have in the demo space, I'll show you what a day or a day of touches looks like. So this is day 120. Imagine 120 days after you put a lead on a sequence. And what I have in this scenario, let's say it's a offer. This is a seller that you made an offer to them and your offer got rejected. That's going to happen a good bit of times here. I may put them on a sequence, and 120 days later at 10 a.m., you can see, I have a voicemail that goes to them, and it could say something along the lines of, hey, this is Carlos. I wanted to follow up. We spoke out your property a few months ago. We're still buying in your area. I want to see if you're interested in selling. Give me a call back. The very same day, 120 days, 2 minutes later at 10:02, I have a text message that goes to them, and it says, good morning. it's actually able to pull their first name. I'll zoom in a smidge. We're actually able to pull their first name. So it'd say, good morning, John. Just left the voicemail with you. Give me a call when you get a chance. And I could say something along the lines of, we're still looking to purchase properties in your, zip code, city, state. If you want to make it a little bit more personal, make it seem a little less like automated, you could do that. So that's pretty powerful, guys. I'm hoping that you're seeing that just for an example of touches there. And it's super, super easy to add these. If I just go new step, I essentially title it internally. So I can say Chicago long-term postcard. You'll see it in this demo space, but it's not out yet. Direct mail via Print Genie. But I can do anything I want here as far as email, text, ringless voicemail, direct mail soon, and then custom task. So maybe that's a follow-up call I want to do. Can add a description there, and I want that to go to me. Let's say that's day 300 just to analyze. And we'll do that at 10 a.m. So that's saved, and these are all of the sequences that you have saved. So once you hit that little floppy disk and save it, these are all the different options of sequences that you could put a lead onto, where you can essentially automate a lot of your touches to the seller. So huge feature, huge benefit. My favorite thing of the entire feature is the ability to get responded when one of your leads is trying to get back in touch with you, so you can take timely action on there. That's kind of the main stuff I go through on the acquisition side. Opportunities, like I mentioned, you could go through, make electronic signature contracts when you have DocuSign, DocuPilot. So that's big as well as far as tying into KPIs, understanding metrics as far as how much revenue you're going. I almost want to go back to, like I mentioned, opportunities and see if John has any feedback. But as far as understanding what you need to do in a day, what you're responsible for lead-wise, we have a very, very clean system, and hopefully any way that you're managing your leads is close to that. Or, hey, come talk to us. We're very light pressure and would be happy to help out. Anything to hit on, John, there as far as sequences, understanding who's trying to talk to you?
I think the key thing to kind of take away, and we certainly treat things differently than a lot of systems out there, but it's all about the promises that you're making to sellers, right? So I talked about earlier with leads coming in PPC, organic versus cold calling. Really anybody that we're dealing with in this industry has a pain point. They have a reason why they're trying to sell, whether that's they're trying to move fast, or they actually have other stuff going on in their life, or the property has things going on that they just don't think they can solve any other way. And again, you have to put yourself in that seller's viewpoint. They're reaching out or are willing to engage in a conversation because they have that pain, and they are relying upon you to keep your promises. So when you call them and they say, I got to chat with my husband, my wife, and we'll give you a call back, and then you say, yeah, absolutely, and I'll follow up with you if I don't hear with you in a week. They just heard you say that. Mm-hmm. Are you actually going to follow up within a week? Or let's say they give some information out in a call with you, and you didn't take accurate notes inside the system, any system that you're using, about the property condition, their situation, what's going on with their problem. You immediately start to lose credibility, right? Mm-hmm. And so you want to make sure that you are able to accurately communicate with every seller that comes across your path, and that's honestly just great note taking, but then that you're staying true to your promises. What is the next thing that I'm going to do to attempt to help you? And honestly, that can be follow-up, right? And another key aspect to that is to consider, when does the lead actually turn dead and when is it still alive? We talked about long-term sequences, and it's when do you start to use those things? And we kind of break up our categories of leads. Can you go to dead reasons there, Carlos? So you have active leads, ones that you're currently, talking to, you're doing actions about. You have those that are in follow-up sequences, so that are being automatically followed up. But there are quite a few reasons or like categories of why you would want to mark somebody as dead. Invalid, that means like they are not the right person. They could be, it could be about the property, it could be about the seller, but it's just like, no, we're done, not talking to them. Wrong number, that's an easy one. Do not call, that's DNC, important kind of characteristic. But then there's not interested. Not interested can be a lot of different things. It could be that they're going to try to sell it on the MLS. It could be that they're trying to solve the problem right now. It could be that they're getting their Christmas bonus, and therefore it should help them solve all their tax problems or their lien problems. But that does not mean that it's solved forever or it won't reoccur. And what a lot of people will do is that as soon as they hear some sort of no from a seller, they immediately remove them from their pipeline, their systems, cross them off on their sheet of paper, and never follow up again. There are good chances that somebody that has these pain points is going to have them again, and potentially still need your help. And so even though they may say no now, it's still like worthwhile for them to be reached out with in the future. Let's say that we're going to try and list it. So we have a feature called resurfacing that, like, based upon the dead recent that you input here, it can come back into the pipeline. So like if they say I'm going to list it, we'd follow up within 30 days. If they say, I'm not selling right now, or I'm attempting to save it, maybe I'm going to follow up with those in 60 days. And you can kind of like customize this. But my point being is that you can almost have like another source of lead generation within the leads you have already generated. As a salesperson, that's effectively what you are, is you want to clean your pipeline. You want people to move people down the pipeline or out of the pipeline. Okay. And so down the pipeline is getting them under contract and then closing the deal. But out of the pipeline is I'm going to follow up with you long-term, or I'm going to mark you as dead. And then from those dead reasons, right, it could be like, you obviously never want me to talk to you again, or it could be there might be something else happening in 60 days. So keep that in mind, that even when you're removing people out of your pipeline, they could still come back in and still need you later. We have a customer named Brandon, and we kind of, as we were formulating what this resurfacing idea would be like, we tried it out with him. And so he had about 30,000 leads that his team had been working or had in their system for the last like 6 years or something like that. And so what he did is he took all of his leads, and then he had one person just go through and start dialing them, even if they were marked as dead, and just following up and checking in to see if there was still an opportunity for something to happen. And he got an 80,000 wholesale deal from that. Just massive income. Because he's like, even though that lady was marked as dead, I'm still going to go talk to her. And she was marked as dead like a year and a half ago. But the situation turned out is that like she solved the problem immediately, and then it came back up. And nobody was reaching out to her. She hadn't been contacted by any other wholesaler. It was just Brandon, and it was just the luck of him calling. So to sum that all up, promises, okay? Good notes. Take good notes so that you can speak effectively. You're always making promises to sellers. Make sure that you actually live up to them. And then do not like remove people from your pipeline unless they say like literally like legally don't ever contact me again, right? But there is opportunity for you to attempt to reach those people out again in the future for sure.
100%. Great points. One thing that's coming up in thought for me for a lot of things along like sales follow-up, as far as success in getting a seller under contract, is the right message at the right time. What having your follow-up pretty organized and in place does is give you a high chance of success at hitting as many sellers with the right message at the right time. I think that's kind of like a theme of what I see with CRM as far as like, how is this going to help me? Like sometimes I talk to people, they're like, how is this going to help me? That's kind of a synthesis of what I would say. It's putting you in the highest % chance of success of hitting your leads that you're spending a lot of effort and money on marketing. Hitting them at the right time with the right message is essentially what a CRM is going to help you with.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Anything from the audience? Anything that you guys want to see? Anything that we can help with? I'll be on the coaching call with Mason next week, same time. Excited for that. Also, just joined the Carrot community. John and I are both in the Carrot community as well. So happy and hope to jump on some thread there, connect with you guys, be a valuable resource for you.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you so much. We're not having any questions come in. Let me check the community one more time.
We did our job really well then.
Yes. Yeah, some great points. Follow-up is everything. Keeping your word is so important. I really like the part about categorizing your dead leads and following up to see, did their solution work? Are they in a more motivated place than they were when you talked to them? Yeah. I think that's super insightful, and that it's great that the software has like it's like a separate funnel for those people, right? To follow up with.
It really is. I was just gonna kind of build off of that real quick. A lot of people, and I mean, when you start to learn this industry, and even sales in general, it's always about what's new, right? Because you're always trying to tackle the low-hanging fruit to reach your goals, and that's an important part, right? Like somebody that just came in, who organically just searched, I need to sell my house fast, is certainly a priority, right? And you want to make sure that you are effectively reaching out and prioritizing that, but there is so many other opportunities there in long term. And I mean, it crosses not only this industry, but every sales industry. I mean, Carlos could tell you stories of people who are wholesalers that have say, hey, I want to learn about follow-up, 10 months. And then, Carlos just kind of keeps following up with them, making them aware of the new things that our system has. And then, 10 months down the line, they're like, man, thank you so much for following up with me. I've just gotten to the point where my marketing is really taking off, and I feel overwhelmed with all of the things that are happening in my business, and I need to be more organized. And I feel like you guys are the solution for that because of all the information you provided. That's what we deal with in our business, but that is exactly the same situation that sellers will feel. It's hard to paint the picture, right? Of how much pain they could possibly going through, and you're encountering so many of these people that you don't want to take it for granted. And follow up is what will help you be front and center for those sellers, and you potentially being the solution to their problem.
Yeah, I think that's great. And to your point, I often tell people a lot of these motivated sellers, their backs are against the wall. They are in a position they never anticipated being in. They didn't plan for it because they didn't think it was going to happen, and now maybe they're embarrassed. They're not talking to friends and family. They are embarrassed they're in the situation, and keeping your word is a great step in trust building, and it's so important. People need to know that you are going to take care of them, and that you will do what you say you're going to do, not just empty promises. So important.
Absolutely.
100%.
Any last thoughts? Anything that you wished that our audience, who apparently is shy, would have asked and that they haven't?
Yeah, I can't think of anything. I mean, there's so much more here, and honestly, it really does depend on where you are in your journey of becoming a wholesaler, whether that's you're just learning or you've been doing it for a while and you're solo, or maybe you have one team member to you have a whole team. There's a lot of different problems that that range of business can experience with their follow-up and with their team management for follow-up. And so, I mean, I would say, if you're watching this and you're like, man, I would love to hear something more specifically about how can I manage other people's follow-up, shoot us just like right in the thread there for the community. Mention Carlos or myself, and we'll happily chime in to any kind of specific questions. Even if you're watching the replay and you have a question, we would love to share more and answer specific questions. So please tag us in any question you have in the thread in the community, and we'll happily dive in.
Agreed.
Well, thank you both so much for being here today. Really appreciate your time, and the messaging is right on point, and it's what, regardless of where they are in their journey, if they have a CRM or if they don't, follow-up is everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Call those sellers.
Yes,
say hi.
Absolutely. Yeah, tell them we said hello. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.